5 years ago, on August 5th, 2013, the first burger was grown in a lab with a cost of $325,000. Today, the cost is just over $11. This level of exponentially declining cost is incredible even by the standards of exponential growth, and as Einstein said and history shows, compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. So what happens after a few more compounding cycles when the cost of a synthetic burger is a fraction of the cost of an animal-grown one? Well, a lot more than just cheap burgers. In fact, I think the butterfly effect created by cheap synthetic meat will make it one of the most important technologies of the 21st century. Synthetic meat will wipe out the demand for animal agriculture, thus the large amounts of animal agriculture in the US, Brazil, and Argentina will be no more. This will have a very positive impact in the environment, since animal agriculture is the main cause behind Amazon behind Amazon deforestation, and it also produces a lot of methane, which is a greenhouse gas 30 times as potent as CO2. This alone would make synthetic meat an incredibly helpful invention, both saving the environment and ending the annoying vegan meat eater debate. However, it will do a lot more than just that. Currently, 40% of corn the U.S. goes to agriculture, animal feed, and the situation is similar in Argentina and Brazil. The U.S. only exports 14% of its corn. This means U.S. exports of corn could more than triple, and some of the excess corn would likely go to ethanol, but not enough surplus ethanol infrastructure exists to process the massive amounts of surplus corn that will exist once it's no longer going into animal feed. And the situation will be similar in Argentina and Brazil, so there will just be a massive amount of corn and soybeans that the world gets bombarded with, particularly Africa, due to continents, West Africa particularly, because there's Brazil, Argentina, US, just all exporting large amounts of food there. And the dumping of cheap corn and soybeans into West Africa, particularly in Nigeria, will likely cause large amounts of farmers to be unemployed. And so large amounts of unemployed young people, especially in Nigeria, because it's the fifth most populous country on the planet with like 180 million people, most of which are very young. And the situation is similar with the other countries, but especially Nigeria, there'll be a lot of unemployed farmers that could either become industrial workers or militants, depending on how the situation goes with politics and the business environment and everything. So likely some of the countries will become embroiled in civil war, while some might industrialize, similar to what happened in, say, like Taiwan, or just in general across Asia. It'll probably be more like what happened in China, because China, the GDP is large due to high population, but the GDP per capita is relatively small, and that'll probably be the case in West Africa. But most likely on the coast is where industrial development will happen, and in the inner regions, which have more farms, there will be insurgency due to the large amounts of unemployment, and you can get away with paying the workers very low amounts on the coast for things like textiles, plastics, the kind of stuff China made 10 years ago, because you can pay them low wages because it's Africa and the standards of living are low, but also food will be super cheap, so you can pay them extra low. And similar things will happen in Nigeria, across West Africa, and eventually the insurgencies in the inner of the continent will likely be defeated because industrialization will make the armies more powerful. And so overall, this will drastically raise the standards of living on the African continent. And by the time this is over, there'll be, even though industrialization will likely cause local agriculture to return, also there'll be higher population, very high population in Africa, but it won't grow super fast as much as is expected to now because industrialization lowers birth rates. But yeah, they'll be wanting more food as well with the industrialization and increases food consumption. And eventually a decent amount will probably end up in Asia as well, with Asia industrializing as well. But yeah, basically the long-term result of the synthetic meat is that it will make the 21st century high populations throughout the world more sustainable, because we won't be chopping down rainforests, we won't be emitting massive amounts of methane, and we'll have a very big surplus of corn and soybeans. So yeah, that was kind of a pilot episode, not super high quality, animations or whatever. But basically, I'm kind of a tech nerd, or I don't know if I'm not really like a computer nerd, but I'm like a math science person who also recently figured out that I was actually better at history than all of those things when I took AP World. So I'm trying to find a way to like combine my passions and see if there's any interest in this video. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, share it. I'm curious to see if there's interest in this kind of stuff, and maybe I'll make more that are higher quality. But yeah, this is George from Alternate.